clearer. All greased up. I just got to wipe off the excess. What I did find was one of these bearings was seized on the shaft, on the cup, and then I found another bearing with the cover missing. So it's worth ripping these bearings out just to check them, and this one's like pretty much seized. You can free them up with some oil on that, clean them out, re-oil them, take the cap off or the cover off, and you can like just put a little bit of grease in there, and sometimes they do come back good. So bearings are another thing that are worth ripping out. Get to one of those parts that I mentioned that can be adjusted and modified so that it's just a little bit better. So this thing here, this is the servo saver here. All right. So what happens when you hit something? The steering's stiff, and this thing here moves. I'm not sure if you can see that. So we can go a bit closer again. Alright, so this thing moves so that it doesn't pretty much strip the arm on your servo. This one won't strip because it's alloy, but then it might do internal damage if there's nothing that absorbs the impact. This is when you're jumping or when you land badly, this absorbs it. The only problem of having it this loose is that it affects your steering on under load. This will turn, this thing will turn, the servo will make this turn, but then the steering won't turn because of this, because it's too loose. So what you can do is you tighten it up. The problem is, if you tighten it up too much, you see the bolt that you tighten up. But the steering is a lot firmer. Now you can make it even tighter, like I said, by ripping that bolt out, making it shorter, and then you can even crank down further, which is what I normally did in the past. But that's pretty tight. But it's right on the edge of scratching the chassis. So I might rip it out and see if I can put a shorter one in. I don't know if we can do it while it's still in, or I might have to undo everything that I just did up. Alright, so I might as well do this arm while it's out. I don't really like popping these off on and off too much because then it wears it out. So I'm going to just take it off here. In the past I always used to just pop it off, but then after a while popping on and off, it just wears it out. So just unscrew it. So this is a 10mm and that's a 6mm. I'm going to do it that way. I'm doing it up, so I'm going to go clockwise. There you have it. So it might actually break when I bang it back down, and I don't want to hit the thread. I'm going to try and hit it just there, and I don't want to damage the thread, so I'm going to put a nut on the end. So it's a bit of a struggle to find the nut. The thread must be, it's just a coarse thread. I haven't really got nuts to accommodate that. Start with a little hammer. There you go. Might have a slight bend still, but how much better is it? I think that'll do. Goes to show you how soft this thing is. Much better. Alright. So this one here, that's the length of the bolt, and obviously it's too long. Alright, so this is the difference in the length. So obviously it won't grab it anymore because it's too far away. So you have to push it in a bit. Yeah, so that bolt's actually pretty good. Now there's no movement, and that's pretty much, that's cranked right down. Oh, broke it. So there you go. Goes to show if you go too hard, you'll go through the little spacer that comes with it. So this thing here, I just went straight through it. So don't over tighten it, which is fine. Lesson learnt. I'll just put another washer on this thing because this holds on to the spring. So I'll just put a washer that'll go over that so it doesn't go through. I don't know what this is for, but it's going to work out good because it fits into the other thing nicely. But it's going to crank it up a bit. I guess you could put a washer on the top and build it up that way so it doesn't stick out. So it's either going to stick out at the top, which you don't want to go too far up either, or stick out at the bottom. I don't think I'll be able to fit this anymore. I'll have to go back to the long bolt. Yeah, too high now. Back to the original bolt. So just once you do it up, just test a little bit, see how much. So just hold that together and see how much that moves. And if you want a little bit more movement, just back it off a bit. I think that'll do. So I ended up using the same bolt, just another washer. I'll see if that actually fits. And it should. Again, pretty much the same as when I checked the diff, when I checked the diff yesterday. When you put something together, just make sure there's no binding, nice and free, and that's how you want it to stay. Alright, so I did find the problem from doing it the height way with that mod, because then the top of this bolt hits the bolt that I put up a bit. I'm not sure if you can see it, but that hits that. So this will need a shorter bolt. This is probably a better view anyway here. So just going to make sure what I was saying. If you go up that way, the bolt that holds this down isn't too long, otherwise it'll hit here, and you don't want that. So there's really not that much clearance as it is, so that's probably why they go the other way and get a shorter bolt. But like I did, well, what I did, don't do that. Don't over tighten it, because then you'll just break that little alloy spacer retainer pretty much.